Hello, my loves. Ruby here. If you are new to this channel, I am a psychic medium, tarot reader, archetypal astrologer, and priestess. And today I want to talk about deepening our understanding of the archetype of Saturn. I haven't shared much about my work as an archetypal astrologer in, this particular space, my YouTube channel. But I'm feeling really called to talk about the archetypes and talk about my work and talk about, the initiations in the structure of tarot and astrology and in my work as a priestess that I haven't previously dived into in my online space, how I've been showing up online. So, if this type of content interests you, I'd love, to hear your feedback in the comments. But Saturn is a planet. It's a planetary energy that a lot of us have a difficult relationship with. And I know Saturn was first presented to me as the great malefic. That's how it's seen in traditional Hellenistic astrology. So Saturn, the god who eats his children, is this energy that we associate with fear, limitation, blockages, contraction, feeling stuck. Saturn we associate with karma. Saturn is also the lord of time. Saturn is Kala, time. Saturn we associate with bones. Time is death. So there is an element of death with Saturn. All right. Saturn is also matter. Saturn is the 3D. Saturn is matter. My teacher, my astrology teacher, Jessica DeRuzza, says matter is mother. Saturn is the mother in matter. When I was first learning astrology, I was taught to correlate Saturn with the energy of like a really grouchy, stern school principal or like a grandfather. Saturn is stern. Saturn is hard lessons, responsibility. And as somebody who doesn't feel really at home in a strict, responsible, dogmatic, Saturn can be dogma, authoritarian, Saturn can be authoritarianism energy, I've always really resisted Saturn. And Saturn in my chart is one of the most difficult parts of my chart. I have Saturn in the 4th house in Aquarius, right on my IC. And where Saturn is in our chart, there can be a sense of isolation. And in my home life, I was so isolated. I've always felt so alone and so restricted in my ability to be nurtured, to get my needs met, to feel close with other people, to have my attachment needs met. And so Saturn has been this thorn in my side my entire life, even before I knew who Saturn was or where Saturn was in my chart. I railed against the Saturnian energy in my system and in my life. I don't want to feel constricted. I don't want to feel fear. I don't want to feel trapped. I don't want to feel like I'm just stuck in the shit of my karma, isolated, alone, frustrated. That can be Saturn, the great malefic. It's not an easy energy all the time. But I had this dream about Saturn right at the end of my Saturn return. I want to say I was 31. Yeah, because this is about a year to the day I had this dream, and I'm 32 now. It was like the tail end of my Saturn return, using the orbs of influence I got from my teacher, Jessica DeRuzza, which are a wider window of the Saturn return. And one of the reasons I know it's the correct window for the Saturn return, this wider time window, is because I woke up on the last day of my Saturn return using this orb of influence, using this time window, out of a dream I had about Saturn. And in this dream, I saw Saturn as this old, wise, ancient grandmother tree. She was this grandmother, but she was this tree, and there she was knotted. Like her branches were, it was almost like they were bone. They were knotted. It was like it was almost awful. But in the sense there was a sense of awe to her. And so wise and so ancient and so intimidating almost, but just like grandmother energy. With these gnarled, knotted branches and roots, just the roots that went deep into the earth that this Saturn tree had. And she said to me, she said, I wisen you. That is what I do. That is my purpose. I am Saturn and I wisen you. I am the contraction. Like I am what matures you and brings you into your rootedness. And this dream, this download, I do feel like this was a download from the archetypal energy of Saturn herself, shifted so strongly how I work with Saturnian medicine. And I have come to revere and honor the planet Saturn. And one of the reasons why I feel so aligned with archetypal astrology, and even though, I will study the Hellenistic texts and I will learn from traditional astrologers, one of the reasons why I will never be a Hellenistic or a traditional astrologer is because I find there's dogma. There is a sense of, no, Saturn is a masculine energy. Saturn is all of these things. Saturn is the great malefic. Saturn can't be this wise old grandmother. There is this feeling of being really rooted in the tradition in a way I find dogmatic. But archetypes grow and evolve in consciousness just like we grow and evolve in consciousness. And the energies of the planets, especially once we get into the transpersonal realm, like Jupiter, Saturn really being the bridge between the personal and the transpersonal and the planetary energies. Saturn contains both masculine and feminine principle. And Saturn as the grandmother. Yeah, it's the thorn in your side. But it's the thorn in your side that brings you so much wisdom, so much maturation. You bless it. You bless it. And the reason why I can show up only 32 and really hold space, as a psychic and as a tarot reader in the way that I do is because I have experienced so much Saturn. Okay? And I don't know why I feel called to talk about this. Maybe it's because it's almost the year. I wouldn't surprise me if it was the exact year anniversary from when I had this vision of Saturn. Or if it's because, we have been ushered into the age of Aquarius with Pluto moving into Aquarius. And Aquarius is co-ruled by Uranus and Saturn. Or maybe I'm feeling called to talk about this because Saturn is ready to be recognized in her feminine form. And yes, she is death. And yes, she is time. Yes, she is the bone lady rattling. But she brings us her medicine to wisen us, to mature us, to grow us, to root us. And we can call on her crone medicine when we are in a space of contraction, and we can say, Saturn, show me the wisdom. And yes, there is an element of accountability with Saturn. Saturn is responsibility. It's accountability. But if we can show up in our accountability, if we can, show up every day and say, I'm going to be accountable for my path. I'm going to do the hard stuff that I need to do. Saturn brings rewards. And Saturn brings her rewards with time. I see the energy of Baba Yaga in Saturn. I see the energy of Kali in Saturn. I see the energy of Santa Muerta in Saturn. And so if you struggle to connect in with Saturn, I encourage you to call on Saturn as the grandmother, the ancient one, the crone. And you can leave an offering for her. You can create an altar for her with bones. Saturn is bones. And you can ask her, to help you to integrate her medicine. I also see Saturn associated with plant medicine, and that surprises people. To me, Saturn is cannabis. Saturn, Neptune, to me, those two energies in tandem is cannabis. Saturn is psilocybin for me. Saturn is plant medicine, because it's not easy medicine. Psilocybin isn't always easy medicine, but it brings you into the roots, into the karma, into time, and it pulls out certain things and realigns certain things for the purpose of wisdom and maturation. I am so ready for our understanding of this archetype to evolve as this energy has evolved and as we are evolving. None of the planets are bad. All of them are here to support us in our evolutionary process, and death and contraction and time. Those are all materials for our evolution. And yeah, we can get stuck in the shadow side of Saturn. We can get stuck in our fear and our dogma. But it's not because Saturn is bad. It's because that energy just needs to be transmuted to its most highly evolved form. Okay. So I will stop there. There is so much more I could say about this. But I so appreciate you letting me, show up in this space to share more from my heart. This is truly what I want to be talking about right now. The archetypes and the invitations around them, what they really mean. And as always, I am sending you love and wishing you well.